Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Like the slide says, a talk about getting started in bug bounty, from picking a program to getting your first report triaged. So let's have a little chat about bug bounty. But before we go, let me introduce myself. My name is Lennaert. I work as head of triage at Integrity, a bug bounty platform. And before this, I worked as security analyst at Zerocopter, another bug bounty platform. That's what I do for a living. But beyond that, I of course do a lot more. I'm the head of CSIRT at the Dutch Institute for Vulnerability Disclosure, which is an awesome volunteer organization that scans the internet and tries to keep the internet safer. And next to that, I organize a few conferences, Hack in the Box for years, and recently, since last year, OrangeCon, which is sort of like Hack Glasgow, but then in Amsterdam. And besides volunteering, I love spending my free time to find some bugs. I've got quite a few of the I Hacked the Dutch Government t-shirts, a bunch of challenge coins, Hall of Fame entries, and of course, bounties for my bugs. So to get everyone on the same level, I thought we would start with talking a little bit about what bug bounty actually is. So bug bounty, in its essence, is find a bug and get paid for it. The goal why companies pay for these bugs is, of course, to close some security gaps before anyone with malicious intentions finds them, exploits them, does harm, launches ransomware, or anything nasty like that. It's most common for bug bounty programs to have web and mobile applications in scope, though in recent times we've seen more and more programs with diverser scopes, like hardware, firmware. There's really some awesome programs, and I think there's bug bounty programs for every hacker out there to start working on, earn some bounties. There's so many cool technologies. You really don't have to be specifically a web application or mobile application specialist to be able to earn some bounties out there. And important to remember, it's a freelance gig. You're not under contract. Most people do it as a side hustle, but it is absolutely also possible to do it full-time. Though there's very few people that actually do it because, well, it can give a lot of stress when you're not finding bounties to be completely dependent on it as your full-time job. So when writing this talk, I was wondering who here has some experience with bug bounty? Has anyone ever done some bug bounty? Anyone any cool to say about it? Sir, do tell, what have you found? What have you reported? I'm also interested in hearing that story. All right. So some of you might come to this talk because you saw a Medium article like this one, how to start bug bounty and how to earn $1 million in 4 years. And I want to temper some expectations because that's absolutely not going to be everyone's journey. It's certainly possible, but there's very few hunters that actually earn 6 figures a year. But yeah, it is possible, but do not set out expecting to become a millionaire with this in no time. So if this talk isn't a money printing machine, then what is this talk about? I want to look into some practical tips about how you can get started. This is absolutely not any get-rich-quick idea of bug bounty, but more looking into which kind of programs are in there, which kind of ways to hunt are there, and what would be suitable for me to get started in this space. So the first question is, of course, why should you get started? Well, for me, I think to learn is the most important part. If you do it out of curiosity, out of fun, play around with some cool techniques, try some new things, and have a nice side hustle. Next to that, I think the bug bounty community is absolutely one of the most lovely communities I've been part of. There's so many people hacking together, helping each other, learning together. For me, it's been a really great experience to be part of this community. And last, I think you can use it to build a little portfolio for yourself, especially when you're starting out in the industry, have a little CV. The company I work for at some point was organizing a live hacking event, and one of the hackers came up to the CEO and asked, hey, sir, are you the CEO? And well, my CEO went, of course, yeah, I am. What's up? Is there any problem? Do we need to talk about something? And the hacker goes, no, I just wanted to thank you. Because of your platform, because of hacking on your platform, I got to know a certain company. I found a lot of bugs for them. They were really happy with me. And that gave me a huge opportunity. I now work for them as a senior security analyst. I was able to relocate from a country in the third world to America, work there, work for the company. Bug bounty and the platform has really changed my life. So there's absolutely cool stories like that out there that I think are an awesome reason of why you should be doing bug bounty. So for me personally, I mostly use it to learn and play around with. I have a good full-time job. I don't care that much about the bounties. For me, bug bounty mostly is wanting to look into a new technique. Like reading a book on Black Hat GraphQL, which is not just for black hats. And I wanted to try some techniques, so I went to look at bug bounty programs that had GraphQL assets in scope. To try some techniques, play around with new tools, experiment, and if I earn any bounties, I can fund my technology acquisition syndrome, because always need to buy more toys, of course. So yeah, those are for me the main reasons to do bug bounty, and as I mentioned earlier, the awesome community to be part of. So a lot of people getting started think like, oh, there's so much competition, it's really hard to get started, it's impossible, every good bug has already been found, and that's absolutely not true. There's still plenty of bugs to be found, even low-hanging fruit that is still just there. We very frequently see the most simple bugs that, honestly, some of them I think shouldn't even exist anymore. Cross-site scripting, SQL injections. Like, as an industry, we've somehow still not managed to solve SQL injection. It still happens. We still see it on a daily basis. Same for insecure direct object references. They're all quite easy to find and easy to exploit, but we still see them in various programs every single day. And of course, there's also new programs launching, which no other hunters have looked at yet. So yeah, you're definitely not too late to the party if you are thinking about getting started now. So in the next section, let's have a little look at how you could be hunting. And I like to make a separation between hunting deep or hunting wide. Whereas when you hunt deep, you often pick a single asset, a single application or program, and you try to dive really deep into it, learn all about it, understand every nuance of the application that you're testing. Whereas when you're hunting on a bit more wide scope, you're going to look for assets that no one has found before. You'll often pick multiple programs, run quick scans, DNS resolving across the entire program. You would be looking at programs that have a wildcard scope, so every single subdomain is in scope. And you'll be mostly doing a lot of reconnaissance, trying to find assets that other people might have not looked at, or that even the company itself might have forgotten. So how could that look? When you're searching wide, you do a lot of reconnaissance, like I said. You probably like doing OSINT, looking at like showdown, certificate transparency, and the types of bug that you find will often have to do with these types of assets. So like exposed admin panels or forgotten open buckets, even subdomain takeovers where a subdomain might point to a service that's no longer being used where you can take it over. And the real goal for most people hunting in this way would be to find assets that other people haven't looked at yet. The things that no one has found. So yeah, good curiosity and creative recon is really at the basis of this way of hunting, and a lot of people write a lot of automation and scripting to support them in this. For instance, a little script like this one. It monitors for new subdomains. In this case, it's using cert.sh for certificate transparency monitoring. So when a new SSL certificate comes online, we can see that for the asset that we're targeting, a new subdomain has been created. And if you want to automate this, you could run this in a cron job, have it running frequently. You could pipe the output to some kind of notification tool. So in your own Discord server or your Slack channel, you get a pop-up like, hey, we've just found a new subdomain. And you might be the first hunter that's looking at it. So you might be able to get a little piece of the scope of the program that no one has looked at yet, and in that way, increasing your chances of finding bugs. And on the other hand, we have diving deeper into an application. You'll spend a lot of time on a single target, learn a lot about how it works, all of the logic, all of the business logic in the application, every single functionality. And I've seen quite a few cases where hunters understood applications better than the people who had built it. Because development teams are often large, and not every developer might know every intricacy of the entire application. Most commonly, people here will find logic bugs. So they'll be looking at privileges not being set quite right, a user with a certain set of rights being able to do things that they shouldn't be doing. And while they can take a long time to find, they're often really, really impactful. And because not many people look this deep into applications, you have a bit of a less chance of finding duplicates. So if you hunt this way, the volume of bugs that you find might be a little bit lower, but there's a good chance you'll have higher impact and thus higher rewards. So an example of this, visiting your target, going through all its functionality, And what I would like to do if I'm hunting in this way is get all my traffic into a proxy and replay the requests, just tinkering with parameters, seeing, hey, if I change the number here, is it going to change the way the application responds? And for me, this way of hunting mostly relies on patience. I'll just click around the application, not really looking for anything in particular, and just wait until something stands out, until I get a response back from the application where I think, hey, this doesn't feel right. And that's where often the bugs are found. Of course, it's not really as black and white in the sense that you have to choose either of these two. I'd really recommend mixing it up, maybe do some wide recon, filter out low-hanging fruit there, see if you can find any old applications that might have not been maintained very well, and then from your recon, pick any one bit of the scope to dive into deeper. And once you feel you've exhausted that, then you rotate to a new target, and you start over from scratch. So I'd really, if you want to hunt, recommend to experiment, play around, try both things, see what works for you, and find really a methodology and a flow that you enjoy in working. There's not really a wrong or a right. Both methods will absolutely help you find bugs. So next, when we have decided on which way we would like to hunt, we're going to have to choose something to hunt for. Especially when starting out, I would absolutely advise you to pick 1 or 2 bugs, to specialize a little bit as to not get overwhelmed. So there are a lot of good bugs still out there, and I would suggest picking one that fits how you would like to hunt. So if you're preferring to do OSINT and wide scope recon, it makes no sense to go look for logic bugs. Whereas on the other end, if you want to dive deep into a single application, it makes very little sense to look for subdomain takeovers. From my opinion, a bunch of good bugs to get started with would be cross-site scripting, because it's really easy to test for, a lot has been written about it, it's easy to understand. Same goes for insecure direct object references. They're like the least technical bug I can think of. Exploiting them often just requires changing a single number in a parameter and you found it. Subdomain takeovers as well. There's a lot of documentation on them. They're not really hard to spot. And of course, logic bugs. Because again, they're often not very technical. They just require an understanding of the logic of the application and then exploiting this. So, while these are some things I would recommend to hunt for, there's also a bunch of things I wouldn't recommend hunting for. Reason for this is that they have very low impact, and in my opinion they should always be out of scope, but they aren't always. There are some programs that will accept bugs for this, but yeah, they're very far and few between, and I would not look for things like anything related to email verification, security headers missing or not set correctly. Like there's almost no company that's gonna pay a bounty for a CSP header not being strict enough. The same goes for session expiration bugs. If a user clicks logout and you still have their token and you can play a request, nobody really cares because the session would have to be compromised in the first place, and as a bug, it's just not very interesting. One of the other ways I would recommend to pick a bug that you like to hunt for is think about what technology do you find interesting. What would you enjoy learning about? What would keep you interested? If you say mobile applications are the absolute bane of my existence, I hate my phone, I don't want to touch Android ever again, then you probably don't want to go hunt for bugs on mobile applications. But if you say, oh, I love building APIs, I know the ins and outs of how an API works, I enjoy it, then go look at API security. There's really many fields in our industry where bugs can be found, so pick something that clicks for you, that you enjoy, or maybe that you already know a lot about because you've developed something in that field. So that's what I would recommend if you're looking for a bug. Pick something that interests you and that sparks your curiosity. So when we know what we want to hunt for and we had a rough idea of how we're going to hunt, it's time to go select a program. I would recommend not picking the most competitive programs to start out with. When you're just beginning in bug bounty, you're not going to have lockpicking 100 just like a level 1 character wouldn't have in Skyrim. So yeah, don't go try to hack Google on your first day. The highest paying programs will be the most competitive. It's where most hunters will be looking. And more mature programs might have fewer and harder to find bugs. There's a little caveat there because a lot of the more mature programs are often very big and are launching new scope almost daily. Yahoo, for instance, their applications can change daily, so there's absolutely still new bugs to be found there. and parts of the scope that haven't been looked at as much, but you'll probably have a better chance starting off on a smaller program where not everyone is already looking at because the bounties are so high. So that would be my recommendation when you're starting. Start with programs that have recently added scope, or programs that are on the lower end of the reward spectrum, or if you just want to learn and play around with some new techniques, you can even go for vulnerability disclosure programs. Those are the ones that don't offer any rewards at all, and definitely have a lot less competition in them. So what makes a good program? Well, first of all, for me, I'm going to look at the scope. Sorry. The scope should fit what you want to do and what types of bug you want to hunt. If you, for instance, pick GraphQL, you read the book on GraphQL and you want to start hunting for GraphQL bugs, then it makes sense to pick something with GraphQL assets in scope. The more the merrier in that case. I also like looking at the response times for triage and for the team itself, and of course the bounty payouts. Response times, of course, vary. I think the program we're showing here with 2 days to first-time response and 3 days to average triage has very nice quick times. I would really enjoy working with a program like that because I hate the feeling of submitting something and then waiting in limbo for weeks before I get a response. And I think nobody likes that. So once we pick the program, what should be the first thing we're going to do? And this is something I would advise everyone that's new to bug hunting to please do. I know it's really exciting to get started hacking, but please read the scope, read the rules of engagement, and check what is actually in and out of scope. And of course, stick to those rules. I shouldn't need to say this, but these rules of engagement are really important. They are what we call provides us with safe haven, meaning that when we hack on a program, they will not pursue any legal action. But if you don't stick to the rules, legal action is an option. I don't think it happens very often, but the rules are there for a reason, so do stick to them. So we've now picked the program, we've done some hacking, and hopefully we found our first bug. Then it's time to go and submit our first bug. So I put some pointers here to how to write a good report. So this is an example of a bad report. Someone was reviewing domains, did a port scan, and just reported many ports are left open. Thanks, but this is not a bug, let alone a critical severity. Just an open port is not something you would submit on a bug bounty. Writing these slides, I was thinking, okay, can I rewrite this as how this report should have looked? And I came to the conclusion, no, this just shouldn't have been reported. There is no good version of this report. So once a report is submitted, it's going to get triaged by the platform. And please remember, triagers cannot read a mind. We're not mind readers. The people on my team look at hundreds of different bugs and different applications every single week. And there's a really good chance that as a hunter looking into an application, they know the application better than my team does. So don't leave them guessing. Don't say in your proof of concept, step 4, click on the button shown in the screenshot and then give me a screenshot with 17 different buttons without telling me on which one I need to click. Don't leave it up to luck, just describe really good what someone needs to do to reproduce your bug. So these are some points a good report would have for me. A short and descriptive title, be clear, make it very understandable what you're trying to say, both about which impact it has and what the description of your bug is. Provide a good, realistic severity. Something a lot of bug hunters try to do is say everything is critical, because obviously critical bugs get the highest payouts. But please try to be realistic in setting the severity. It makes it easier for everyone to get a report triaged. Next is the proof of concept, because in triage they will test if the bug is actually there and if it works. Make sure it's easy to follow, because like I said, triage staff probably knows the application not as well as a hunter that spent hours looking into it. Use attachments where they add something. I don't want a massive video to look at and the report description just saying, look at my video. That's just not going to work. And if you know a solution for the issue, of course, recommend it in your report. People always like reading that, and you will get more respect from triage and platform staff if you give a good solution, helping them out. So like I mentioned earlier, attachments have their place. The text should speak for itself. What we often see is a program will export the report to a ticketing tool like Jira, an attachment might get lost, and no one wants to watch a video of 27 minutes. So yeah, use attachments when they clarify what you're trying to say, but don't solely rely on them, and the text should really speak for itself. So for a lot of bug hunters, they complain about triage staff because the severity got lowered or a bug got rejected completely, and they think that triage or program staff are there to work against them, to not pay out bounties. This is not the case at all. As triage staff, we love looking at cool, impactful bugs. We want to see good findings, and the programs want to get value out of their program. So yeah, they want to receive valid bugs. Staff really is not trying to work against you. And if you ever have the feeling that you were treated wrongly, almost all of the big platforms have mediation processes as a last resort to have someone else look at them. So then when we submitted the bug, we sailed through triage, then we should celebrate our wins. You can write a blog post about your bug. Of course, you should do this in coordination with the program for disclosure. You can post on social media about what you found. Yeah, celebrate the wins. I mentioned community a lot. I love community, it's why I'm here, it's why I love events like this, but also in bug hunting, I think community helps staying motivated. There's so many cool collaborations between smart hackers working together. So find a group, join a community, work with other people. It really helps you learn faster, but also stay motivated. And last but not least, stick with it. You might not find your first bug in the first hour that you start hunting, and you shouldn't have that expectation. But if you stay focused, you follow a strategy, then you will absolutely get bugs eventually. If I want you to take one thing away from the talk, it's this slide. A little bit of focus, make a plan, follow it. Remember, people working on the platform are not your enemies. We all want to receive cool bugs, and always be respectful and kind. I know it's often through text chat on a report, but there's still other people on the other side of the screen. Don't forget that. Any questions?
Yeah, so I've got a minor question about how do you deal with, sorry, as a triager, I'm sure this happens a lot, right? But I'm just wondering what the best way to handle that mediation process is, like when you have something that's marked as a dupe or whatever, like how, if you were the reporter, what do you want to say in a way that's to actually get your point across? What's the best communication mechanism, I guess?
It depends a lot on what the issue is. If it's a duplicate, I think as a hunter, I would very rarely enter mediation because on most platforms I get to see the report title and I can tell, okay, this is fairly a duplicate or not.
Yeah.
But if I feel a triager is just not understanding the report, I often just try to have a chat, reach out like, hey, I think you misunderstood, explain what I think they misunderstood, and say, do you need more clarification? Can you have another look at this?
Yeah. It's specifically a dupe that was marked fixed a year ago but is still open, I guess, is the specifics of what I'm talking about.
That should not have been duped.
Right, okay. Yeah, okay.
Very simple.
Okay, I was just checking I wasn't wrong on that.
No,
right?
I can only speak for integrity on how we handle those. We will never dupe against something that's marked as resolved. So if you hit a dupe, it's a report that's still a work in progress. If something is resolved and you find it again, we will just send it through to the program itself again, because it's either a regression issue where they've reintroduced it, or they've not fixed it well enough in the first place, so that would be a new report for us. So that should not be a dupe in my opinion.
Nice
Any
one.
other questions? I think we have a minute left or so.
Oh, Sean up the back.
It depends a lot on the bug and on the whole process of finding it, and the whole process of how it got triaged. No, there's no particular format I would recommend for a report. What I would recommend is write it from a technical perspective. I see a lot of bugs like, oh, I found a bug and I got $1,000 for it, and then not very much beyond, I found an IDOR and I got $1,000. Okay, that's cool, but tell me what you found. I was interested in reading what hunters were thinking when they were hunting. Like, okay, you found this, that's cool. How it technically works is cool, but how did it come up in your mind to test for this? What were you thinking when you were finding this? That's always an interesting angle, in my opinion. I can't make out what you're saying, Sean.
I'll bring you the mic, Sean.
Cool. I think that makes time. We're like a minute over.
Yeah, no, we're good. Any last questions for Lennaert? Fantastic. Well, thank you, Lennaert, for your talk, and everyone give him a massive round of applause.